And so really the origin story stems from having seen education and changes and challenges in education and the opportunity now more than ever to be able to take all of this incredible technology that we have and put it to good use so that we can set our next generation up and all of these incredible things that they're doing and the skills that they're building and the talents that they're accumulating as they're going through this learning journey from middle school, high school, and beyond. And so really the origin story stems from having seen education and changes and challenges in education and the opportunity now more than ever to be able to take all of this incredible technology that we have and put it to good use so that we can set our next generation up.
You are listening to the Global CTE Podcast with your host, Sylvester Chisom.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Global CTE Podcast. I am your host, Sylvester Chisom. This is the place where I interview the best, the brightest, the movers, the shakers, and the innovators. Today is no different. I have my good friend, Ekta Sahasi here. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Ekta. She's the founder and CEO of Spikeview. She's a visionary leader and dynamic executive with over 25 years of experience driving innovation, scaling ventures, and delivering transformative business outcomes. 6 years ago, she founded Spikeview, a cutting-edge, privacy-first GenAI-powered digital platform that's designed to empower young adults. Spikeview helps students document their experiences, build meaningful networks, and unlock educational and career opportunities. Her work is revolutionizing how young people showcase their skills and navigate their futures. And I can't wait to dive into this conversation. Ekta, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sylvester. It's a pleasure being here.
Oh, listen, I'm super excited to talk to you. Our mutual friend, Peter from the Disrupt Education podcast, he's like, you have to talk to Ekta. You have to talk to her. And I'm excited that he connected us for sure. And all the great things you're doing in this conversation around digital portfolio is so critical to today, in my personal belief. But before we dive into all of that, what's the origin story? How do you get here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you again for having me. How did I get here, right? So I've spent a better part of my career tinkering around and playing with technology. And I've always been around Educator. My dad actually was a professor at a community college for many, many years. So I have seen transformation and changes in education growing up firsthand. And fast forward that many years, and I realized after having my, kids who are now teenagers, that there's such a need for our kids and the next generation to be able to really take all of these incredible things that they're working on, these opportunities that they have, whether it's a pet project at home or whether it's, doing something at school or at a local, community organization. There just isn't a place for them to showcase their holistic selves and all of these incredible things that they're doing and the skills that they're building and the talents that they're accumulating as they're going through this learning journey from middle school, high school, and beyond. And so really the origin story stems from having seen education and changes and challenges in education and the opportunity now more than ever to be able to take all of this incredible technology that we have and put it to good use so that we can set our next generation up for success and really feel empowered as they're going through their journey to reach the stars and to be able to do what they want to do and need to do and deserve the opportunity to do.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a beautiful origin story. You said something I'm curious your thoughts on. To prepare our students for the next generation for success, for future success. What do you feel like? What are some of those skills that you feel like are going to be important for them to have going forward?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things, and our next generation is existing in a very, very dynamic environment. So I think it's not so much a particular skill that they're going to need. It's the ability to showcase how they're moving with the broader ecosystem and the changes, and their ability to effectively participate in that with the tools that they have. And if they don't have the necessary tools, the ability to quickly jump on the train and learn, right? And so that continuous learning and building skills and accumulating different skills that will keep them current, that will keep them relevant in this dynamic environment. But I think what is one thing, and this is not just, I'm not talking about technologists, that's who I am, but I'm talking about all kinds of skills, like soft skills where, the ability to connect, show up, get the job done, right? It's a lot of those skills that are very transferable from one job to another or one project to another. And so the question is, how do you give them a framework? How do you give them a tool that they're able to show that on a continuum and their ability to mature in those spaces? And then also, the actual hard skills that they need to get a job done, right?
Yeah, I do think it's a both and, but there's so much conversation right now around what you just said, like those future skills, but the things that are transferable, which like my friends from America Succeeds calls the durable skills. Yeah. So like communication, collaboration, teamwork, critical thinking. Those are things that we're going to take with us as we build on that continuum, as you're saying. But then how do we showcase those as well? Which I'm curious about. You talked a little about this earlier in our pre-show convo, mapping the student learning journey. Like, talk to me about that, because I thought that was very unique the way you framed it.
Yeah. So I think, historically, we have looked at, kids and they're going through different phases of life, right? Elementary school, middle school, high school, or toddlers and, teenagers and, young adults and whatnot. And I think the broader requirement, as our generation starts to evolve and effectively participate in this dynamic economy, is that they're actually on a continuum. And that as they're going from one thing to another, they need to show progression. And that's really their learning journey map. What are they learning? What are they engaging in? What are the choices that they've made, and how are they evolving in the things that they're doing? And you talked a little bit about communication, right? How like an elementary school school student communicates versus how maybe a middle or a high school student communicates. There is a transformation that happens with our kids as they're moving forward through these different phases. And so from my point of view, it's really about that continuum and showing in that learning journey that they're on from middle school, high school, and beyond. How are they maturing in these areas?
Sylvester here. I hope you're enjoying the episode. I know I personally was while we recorded this. Ekta has something she wants to share with you on how you can engage with the Spikeview team. Ekta?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're a administrator, a superintendent, CTE, coordinator, teacher, work-based learning administrator, reach out to me at team@spikeview.com so that not only can I show you a quick demo of how we are, supporting a lot of the students across the United States, but then also talk about how we can set up a quick pilot with you and get this powerful tool in the hands of your students. It's quick to deploy and it's fun to use. So definitely reach out, and I'm excited to hear from many of you who are listening to us today.
Absolutely. Take the time to schedule the demo or set up a pilot for Spikeview. All right, now back to the episode.
And to be able to have a way to showcase how they have evolved in this learning journey map. And I think that's what it's all about. It's being able to take what you do and continuously add to that to demonstrate the next thing that you're doing and how it's sort of built on the foundation that you've already built. And it's totally okay where there might be things that you've decided that you're not going to take forward with you. And that's totally okay. But you can show where one thing ended and then you picked up another thing, right? And I think what we need to do is give these students the ability to show that progression as they're going through these phases and be able to take the data with them.
Yes.
A lot of tools are really available to them for like a middle school or a high school or a post-secondary, right? But what about all the data that sits around our students? what if we can empower them to take it so that in a given conversation where they have a need to showcase a particular skill or a particular talent that they have, that they can whip that open and show it, right? But they need to have access to that. And that's really what we're doing with digital portfolios, is the ability to take that learning journey with them as they're progressing.
I love that you just shared that and broke it down so eloquently. I think it's something we need to all be more thoughtful about is that progression, and how do we track it? I know that's a big question a lot of people have in education. It's like, how do you track that learning journey? So I'm curious, is this how people using Spikeview to help track that learning journey map?
Yeah, I mean, we have, so many students who are engaged in a variety of activities. Let me just pick on one, right? You have students who are athletes, right? Or you have, CTE students who are in a particular pathway, construction or, manufacturing, So the idea is, what if you could build that learning journey map where you're showing one project and how that project connects to the next, or, how you go from like club sport and focusing on soccer and then going into like, junior varsity or varsity player. How do you show that transformation that you've gone through and your leadership skills and your, team abilities and all of that? Or if you're a construction student, how we, here are like the different skills that I've picked up. We work with a school out of Southern California that are leveraging Spikeview for their cosmetology program. And those students are building, portfolios around how their craft has evolved in time, right? And so it's through the work that the students are doing. We're not adding more. We're not asking the students to create more. We're just talking about taking what they're already doing and providing a powerful tool to showcase the evolution of that craft, the evolution of that athlete, or the evolution of that construction worker, because they're adding skills to the things from where they started to where they're going.
Wow. I'm curious, the cosmetology school, like what are some of the things that can you go a little deeper or share any more on how they're using it or the students' experience?
Yeah, I mean, so, it's a very hands-on profession, obviously, right. And there's different, areas of focus in cosmetology, from makeup to hair to what have you. So be able to take a skill that you're learning inside a particular class, or you've devoted 5 weeks towards a particular area, in a particular space where you're doing maybe makeup and focus on a particular kind of makeup. And so showing that by show and tell, right? Here is a portfolio of how like the eye makeup looks like. Here's how, it's evolved with different colors and different techniques and whatnot. So having videos, having photos, descriptions, very rich descriptions of how you've evolved it and the techniques you've learned. And, Sylvester, recently we've integrated generative AI as an assistive tool into the platform. So where students are maybe struggling to really describe the details of what they're doing, because oftentimes, students have a hard time in really articulating that. Mm-hmm. We have brought in some of the generative AI and the power of that to assist the students to really start to describe and tease out the skills that they're trying to showcase within that particular instance or within that particular work or craft that they're focused on. So it's been really exciting to see the evolution of students. And it's truly dynamic and universal. I mean, we talked about cosmetology, but we have students that are computer science students. We have design students. We've got, it's really.
That's what I was going to ask. I wanted to ask you, like, give me another like potential CTE pathway. I love that cosmetology is doing it, and I can totally see the alignment with them to help enhance their career prospects. Like once they're out of school, but give me another one, like maybe anything how a school system is using Spikeview to help support credentials or certifications or anything like that.
Oh, absolutely. So, when we come in and start working with educators, one is that we're fully app and web-based. So yeah, access and deployment, super easy. But really, we come in and what Spikeview provides is a sort of, you can think of it as like a blank canvas, a private but very secure blank canvas for a student to start creating their account and collaborating with the educators to start adding their information and details of the stuff that they're working on. And then we also provide a little bit of a curriculum around, around the basics, right? Really coaching and guiding and working with our educators to say something simple like, and what we've discovered is it's important to provide the basics, right? So something simple like, how do you write an effective summary about who you are? Because oftentimes you will have, young adults writing very simplistic things like, in my free time, I love to do makeup and play soccer. But there's so much more that you can write and describe in terms of who you are, right? So it's really providing that curriculum around how do you make an effective portfolio? So now to answer your question, you can, when we're working with districts, we'll come in, sit down with educators and say, okay, what are your top use cases? Are you focused on a particular pathway, cosmetology, design, construction, plumbing, what have you, right? What does that look like? And then start to work with them to deploy the platform. It's an easy invitation that goes out to the students. They create the account and start the building process using a very simplistic curriculum that we have built around that gives them ideas, basically more than anything else, in terms of how do you talk about certain things, right?
And what they should showcase.
Yeah.
That was going to be my question. Because there's a big conversation around digital portfolios. In your opinion, what makes a great digital portfolio for someone that's trying to use it to leverage it into an internship, job, or something like that?
Yeah, sure. Let me answer that. But before I do that, let me just really finish on the fact that, because you asked about certifications, right?
Yes, yeah.
So we have a lot of schools that have their own badges, or they want us to create custom badges or be able to have, certifications available through the platform. We're able to do all of that. The student's able to upload all of that, create it into one, asset that goes with them, which sort of dovetails into this next question of what makes a great portfolio. There's a couple of things where we spend a lot of time. You can have all the technology in the world out there, but if you can't get the user to engage with it, I'm not sure what you're doing with it. And I think where we spend a lot of time is really focused on what is it that's going to make students excited about using the technology. And that user experience is extremely, extremely important. It's got to be simple. It's got to be effective. It's got to look nice. It's got to be something that's appealing to this audience. And so we've, as a company, have spent a lot of time on user experience where the student wants to keep coming back. And that's why we've taken a web-based and an app-based approach really to meet where the student is. So I think there is a big aspect of that what makes a good portfolio is the ability to engage the student and ease of use, right? It shouldn't be hard, because what you're actually inherently asking them to do is not fun. Nobody just sits around wanting to, put together a portfolio. But how do you make it engaging and interesting? And that's really kind of what we have done. The other thing, Sylvester, I think what makes a portfolio really impactful is flexibility and comprehensiveness. So when you look at, a blank vanilla Spikeview, it gives you the ability to add whatever you want. Like, you can add certifications, you can get recommendation letters, it even will create a real-time resume for you from your portfolio, because there's a lot of companies out there who are saying, LinkedIn, great, but give me a resume, or Spikeview, great, but give me a resume. So we just added that capability. The student doesn't have to go off and create a resume. And then the other thing that's super important, why we are so flexible and dynamic and are able to work with the broader audience, whether it's a CTE pathway or any kind of student athlete, performing arts student, or you name it, is because we also allow students to add their own categories for the work that they're doing. So we have predefined categories, but if there is an area that they're working on that's not already in Spikeview, they can create that and they can add that experience. So that flexibility is what a lot of our students absolutely love, because they're like, oh, well, I'm not confined to a structure, right?
Yeah. I think I find that flexibility is important when I hear feedback from students and from educators on how a tool can work. I am curious. You said something that really got me thinking. It's been heavy on my mind. Like for our ed tech people who are listening, I'm just curious your thoughts on what makes a great experience. Like, just what are some of your thoughts on, like, when you think about that?
Yeah, I think the answer is very simple to that. Like, I should be able to open the app and know exactly what I need to do without any instructions at all. Yeah. So the ability for the experience to be so self-explanatory that when I log in, I know what I'm doing. And I think from the educator standpoint, we have actually collaborated quite a lot in the past 6 years with educators, very deliberately CTE educators, to come to the table and work with us to provide feedback, engage on features that would be important for them to collaborate with their students. And what we've actually ended up building is a separate tool for educators that allow them to invite students to Spikeview. It adds them to their dashboard and then collaborate with students during the creation process. The beauty of it is there's a little bit of an oversight that the educators can provide, but the heavy lifting is really being done by the student, and the educators are free to do the things that they're really good at, which is advising, which is really guiding and coaching the student on the creation process. And so one of the things we heard loud and clear from the educators was, we have so much going on our plate. We don't need another tool, and we don't have the bandwidth to learn and, kind of do more. So is there something simplistic that we can do? And I think I'll just reiterate one thing. Spikeview is privacy first. So when a student's creating their portfolio, it's private. Even the educators are not able to just access it except through the educator dashboard. We've made it very simple for educators to come in, log in, be able to access the student portfolio, and section by section, give feedback to the students. So if 1 week an educator has decided our school's going to work on summaries, well, they can go in, look at the summaries of this, what the student is, doing on our platform, and provide that feedback. It goes directly to the students. So we've made it super simple with the voices that we've collected from our educators. So it's really been a co-development effort in the past 6 years. And I, Sylvester, could not be more grateful for the educators that have been on this journey with us, because I think without that, we would have been yet another tool, a technology tool that's being provided versus a technology tool that we are creating together that is meaningful for the audience that's going to use it.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I want to go back to the privacy. And is that a big problem that you hear like educators talk about, like, oh, these tools and they want to use our student data? Like, what's some conversation you're hearing around like the importance of privacy and like the education tools and things?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot from privacy standpoint, and fair enough, right? There's concerns about student data being everywhere. And so we, as a company, have taken the approach of going privacy first. So the student, along with the educators, decide how much of the portfolio that a student's going to be visible publicly or within the community. And what we've also done with feedback from the educators is we've made Spikeview completely configurable. So if there's certain privacy features that are required by the school or district, we can sit down and configure it exactly to the needs of the district or the school or the educator. And so can be fully private. It could be fully visible, or it could be something in between. And now if you're wondering, okay, well, if I'm privately creating this portfolio, then like who's consuming this? How do people access it? So the beauty of it is as the students are creating, they are able to create unlimited custom views of their Spikeview portfolio. So let's say, Sylvester, I'm going to apply for a podcaster opportunity with you. So maybe communication skills, my ability to present, are most important for our interaction and that interview. So I can pick and choose experiences from my portfolio and show you a view of my portfolio that is relevant for that interaction. Versus if I'm applying for like a marketing opportunity or a construction opportunity, I can pick and choose different, aspects of my portfolio. So think about the power of that. One, your data is private. Two, a student has full agency and full control on their data. and they get to share aspects of it depending on what they need. And our students and educators absolutely love that, because no longer is the data all over the internet. No longer is it out there for competitive reasons. I mean, there's so much that can happen out there. And so, we've just been really incredibly fortunate to have this already in place. And it's a feature that's absolutely loved by our audience.
Yeah, I think that's there have been some data breaches and things lately and some privacy issues with some companies. So that's why I was like, curious your thoughts and how you're handling it and your approach. You spoke.
We also work with many, many states at the state level for having data privacy agreements in place. And so we've got them across many states as well. So that's been great in terms of just kind of our commitment to privacy and really making sure that, as a company, we are working hand in hand with districts and educators to really make sure that what the privacy requirements are met.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and helping people feel comfortable with signing up for something like that. They're sharing that data. I'm curious. You've talked a lot about AI, the role you're using, how you're using AI within Spikeview, but let's talk a little about AI in education. Like, what's your message for the educators and administrators around like how they, as a technologist, how should they be thinking about AI and the use case in education in the school system?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the space is evolving fast. But one thing I can say is AI and the way we understand it today is going to be very different in the next 5 years. But it is here to stay. And so I think for educators and for this next generation that's like thinking about AI, and, there's a spectrum of thoughts around it. Like, I am so scared it's going to take away all of our jobs, to, I'm the biggest optimist, and, it's going to revolutionize everything. I think it's somewhere in that spectrum, right? There's definitely going to be impact of AI on all of our lives. We're already seeing that. And so I think my advice and my thoughts would be understand the evolution of AI and look at it in the way of how is it assisting me in doing what I am doing and assisting in me doing that better. Yeah. Right. And I think when you look at it and reframe it that way, one, some of the fear around the technology and the overwhelming feeling of, oh my God, it's taking over, everything goes away. And I think then you can be a little bit more objective around, okay, what does that application look like for me and my use case? And I think our approach to AI in Spikeview has been that, right? When we introduced and when we started to think about introducing GenAI into Spikeview, there was a variety of reactions. Our school district's never going to touch this. We don't, we're not going to adopt AI, right? But when you reframe it as assisting, and you say, okay, instead of a student looking at a blank screen trying to write a little summary about who they are, what if it was prompt-based and that they could just answer a few questions? Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's like, yeah, students can answer a few questions and there's no, challenges in that, right? And so it's assisting in that way. And if it makes a powerful statement about who the student is and that summary is well articulated, it's benefiting everybody, all the key stakeholders, right? It's taking away the frustration from the student on how do you articulate one. It's driving efficiency for the educators because now all of a sudden they don't have to sit and, edit and re-edit and, maybe spend a little bit less time there. And then at the end of the day, the consumers of that, let's say a student is applying for an internship or a competitive program or some pathway. Now, all of a sudden, the person on the receiving end is saying, I get it. I understand who this student is in a much more of a deeper way. So it's a win. And a technology is driving efficiencies for all of us. That's how we look at it.
Yeah, I just heard, I was trying to find it in my notes. I just heard Reid Hoffman say something about the world we live in today is not just give the AI and just let it go fly free. Like, right. No, AI plus human equals supercharged work, equals supercharged efficiency. And that's something how we should be thinking about leveraging and using those tools and teaching that next generation on how to use those tools in a responsible way that's going to prepare them.
Yeah. And if I could also add one very recent thing that we're, just about to launch, actually. So it's a preview.
Okay. Breaking news.
Is, it's Spikeview for career advising. Think about this, right? You've got the entire context of the student and actual work that the student has done over a period of time. Let's say we're looking at a high school student who's considering potential pathways, right? And the high school student has focused primarily on construction, right? And has done construction-like projects or volunteering and whatnot. Now, imagine if you could marry that, and then they come to a teacher in the world today, or 6 months ago, right. They come to a teacher and said, well, I've been doing construction and this is the pathway I'm in. So I'm guessing I'm just going to be a construction worker, right? Here are the skills. And then you've got the educator, trying to advise the student. Now, imagine if we could co-pilot that with GenAI. And here's what's coming out, right? You've got the context of the student through the portfolio. You've got workforce data from the industry in terms of the skills needed and whatnot, right? A lot of great work has been done in the industry around that. Marry the two of those, the student's career identity around the types of things that they are inspired by, right, through a series of questions. Marry all of that. And if you could then leverage technology to generate recommendations that say, oh, you've spent a few years on construction, but a lot of these skills also transfer to IT services. They also transfer to this other pathway. Have you considered this? And by the way, here's some salary data. And by the way, if you're interested, here are some advisors you can connect with. This advising, and look at the savings on the educator side in terms of time and effort, because all that data is there. Now, all of a sudden, you can look at that summary and say, okay, I can map to these different career tracks. How wonderful is that? And then you can kind of progress the conversation from that. So that's what's coming up. It's career advising through Spikeview.
I like that because it's like leveraging technology. I'm loving, for me personally, I'm really loving seeing education companies that are leveraging technology to enhance the user experience for the students, keeping the students at the center of it all. And especially in our space, their interest, prioritizing their interest and finding ways to leverage that into you have these particular interests and these skills based on your Spikeview. Right. Here are career recommendations that maybe you had not thought about because you were not exposed to them previously, or no one in your personal network or family would even know to make this recommendation for you.
Right. And it drives unbelievable, discovery of things that, we as educators or students hadn't even imagined, right? A construction worker thinking, okay, I can go into IT services. How? Right. And then bringing those resources right at their fingertips that actually, this really, at the end of the day, is about outcomes, right? We want to drive outcomes for our students, right? They've spent the time doing whatever they've spent the time doing. Now they're showcasing all of that. How does that translate into a benefit and outcome for the student? And ultimately, that's where we want to be, right? Equitable access to opportunities based on the things I've got access to and things I've done, right? And that's really kind of our North Star. And that's where we're headed as a company, is really making sure that what we know, putting the student front and center, what we know about that individual at a very personalized level, how do you help them leverage that to drive and, change the trajectory of where they're going to go, and give them the agency to do it.
And the agency to do it. Ekta, I love you getting fired up over there. I love your passion.
I love this stuff.
I know. This is my one big question. I'm curious, that speaks to the future, that I ask everyone this question as we wrap it up. What's your vision for the future of career in tech education?
Yeah, that's a big mission. I think the future is really about individuals who are going to continue to be on a learning journey map that's going to continue to have to evolve based on the broader macro trends and the macro climate within which all of us exist, right? So the learnings will have to be continuous. And I think it's gonna come down to being able to showcase how you are evolving through that journey, and then being able to get access to the opportunities you need and deserve throughout your life. I think the role of education is going to be about continuous learning and continuous access to opportunities. And education will have to evolve with that. As newer things come up, we're going to have to, tool and retool our students and our educators. And when I say student, I mean that in the sort of broadest term. In today, I consider myself the student because I'm continuously learning, right? I mean, the GenAI stuff wasn't around, several years back, and we all learned it, right? And so I think the future of education is this continuous evolution of learning journey map for all of us. And that if we can stay on this and if we can showcase how we're progressing, then I think at the personalized individual level, opportunity for anybody, regardless of the socioeconomic status and the backgrounds that they come from or the access that they've had in the past, it, I think, levels the playing field for all of us, and that we can have the permission to dream big and go after the things that we want to, and have the ability to access those educational opportunities at our fingertips to change the trajectory of where we're going to go.
I love it. It's a great answer. Great answer. Ekta, you salute to you and the Spikeview team. You really have created a product that solves a real and necessary problem that's going to drive positive impact for our students and educators. So thank you for the work you're leading, and continue to innovate in your space. For those who want to connect with you to learn more about Spikeview, or they want to get a demo or something, where should they go?
Yeah, you could go to spikeview.com to learn a little bit more. And then you can reach us at team@spikeview.com, TEAM, team@spikeview.com. And we'll definitely be there to, follow up and set up demos. We have a pilot program in place. So if you want to pilot this with a particular pathway or, cohort of students, we absolutely do that. So that's the best way to reach out to us.
Awesome. Ekta, again, thank you for joining me today on the podcast. I also want to thank you, the listener, for taking the time to watch this episode. And if you enjoyed it, don't be selfish. Ekta shared a lot of great gems. Share it with a friend or colleague who needs to hear about this work and these digital portfolios. It is definitely the way forward. Until the next episode, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Global CTE Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to be the first to know about future episodes.